And we are live. Welcome to the BKB 21 prediction and pre-fight show with me, George Glinsky, joined as always by my co-host, the Italian scallion, Paolo Lucci. How are we doing, man?
So, mate, how are you?
Yeah, very well. We've got a really exciting card to get into. A few fights on this card that we've been racking our brains over. We have finally narrowed it down to our final predictions, so let's get into it. Okay, so kicking off our fight card, obviously we haven't got this in official order. This is in the order we think it should be, so no offense to anyone. It's just in terms of experience. But Ellis Shepherd versus Gareth Hutchin. Now, Ellis is the youngest bare-knuckle fighter in BKB history at 22 years old, which is incredible in itself. I believe he's had 4 bare-knuckles. It could be less, could be more. The regional bare-knuckle scene, it's hard to get the exact results and everything on there, but I think I'm right in saying 4. Ellis will probably put me straight on that one, but he's the man that has the bare-knuckle experience. Gareth Hutchin, 5-1 as an unlicensed boxer. It's a well-matched fight. We'll see how it goes on the night. Obviously, Gareth, a tall, rangy, back-foot fighter, and then you've got the come-forward style of Ellis Shepherd, light on his feet, fast hands. Well-matched. What are we thinking, Paolo?
I think Ellis is going to get this one. It's not a certain result. Obviously, we've not seen Ellis before in a BKB ring, and Gareth's first time in the bare-knuckle ring. So it's unpredictable, definitely. But I think the styles will really gel. I've seen a little bit of Gareth. He looks quite patient, quite composed in glove boxing. He's got a few stoppages, which is good as well. And I think Ellis seems a bit more, uses his hand speed a lot more, high volume of punches. So I think we'll have a lot more volume from Ellis, and maybe Gareth looking for a bit more of fewer but more meaningful shots. I think the styles will really gel. I'm marginally going to go with Ellis on this one, on a points decision. I think a unanimous decision on this one.
Yeah, it's a well-matched fight. I'm in two minds. It's either Ellis coming in and overwhelming his man, or it could be a cagey affair. I think Gareth, it being his first bare-knuckle fight, will want to take the time to find his range, so that will benefit him more than Ellis. We'll see. I think I'm going to go for Ellis as well. I think the experience and the speed, a lot of the time when you have two well-matched opponents, it's who beats the man to the punch, and I think Ellis is the man that gets that. But, you know, it's one of those fights. It could go either way. I'm going to go for a unanimous decision with Ellis Shepherd. Next up, Chaz Symonds versus Wes O'Neill. It's a fight which I have to pretext with some unfortunate information. Wes O'Neill is obviously a well-known journeyman in professional MMA. I'm ever so slightly disappointed about this matchmaking, but we'll let it slide. Or if you go to Wes's Tapology, it says 0-9. He's actually on a 50-fight losing streak, never won a professional mixed martial arts contest. At the top of his page, it reads, "This fighter has been found by Tapology to have engaged in activity which does not conform to combat sports standards, has purposely participated in bouts with no reasonable path to victory, displayed a lack of competitive effort, and is unjustifiably matched against far more skilled opponents. One or more bouts on the fighter's record have been marked as exhibition status and do not count towards either participant's win-loss record." Hence why it says he's 0-9. So first of all, we've got a man here. I mean, the first question is Wes O'Neill turning up to win? I mean, I don't know. He hasn't turned up to win in his professional mixed martial arts career. If you type the guy's name into YouTube, it comes up with a highlight reel with 30k views of him losing. So, you know, it's not even disrespectful to say this. I genuinely don't know what Wes O'Neill is going to do. I don't know how he's going to turn up. I don't know whether or not he's mentally prepared for this one. I'm shocked, but automatically I'm just going to go for Chaz Symonds without thinking. You know, Southern area champion, classy boxer, showed his class in that third round of the Johnny Lawson fight at BKB Lockdown 2. I'd be very shocked if this goes any other way. I feel disrespectful in saying it, but those are the facts. They're on Tapology, they're on everything. So I don't know if you're any different, Paolo.
I'm not any different, to tell you the truth. I can only see it going one way, really. I mean, look, it's bare-knuckle. Anyone's got a chance, but I even feel unsure saying that in this case, to be honest. Chaz did it really well, I thought, against Johnny Lawson, who's very experienced. Chaz obviously got, I think he's 18-9 as a pro gloved boxer.
Yep. So
I think there's levels to the game, and I can see quite a quick stoppage.
Yeah, does Wes O'Neill want this? We'll find out on the night. I hope he proves me wrong. I really do.
Yeah, good luck. Go for it. I think if you're there, go for it. Go for the win. It's just a big Superman punch at the start. See if it takes him off guard.
Advice from Paolo Lucci: go for a Superman punch. Next up, the people's main event, Bashir Fakhouri versus Alex Wilson. Really, really interested in this one, as I am with all of Bashir's fights. One of the most exciting guys in BKB. I'm going to fire it over to you, Paolo, first, because I understand you have a bit of an unorthodox prediction.
Yeah, this is one I'm really looking forward to. As usual with Bash, his fight's going to be fun, explosive, unpredictable. He's there for a brawl. It's no secret. He's not going to come out and box you doing his 1-2-3s, and he wants to take your head off, and that's it. And that's why it is so fun. Now, the interesting thing in this is we've got two very different characters in terms of what they bring to the table. Bash hasn't got a great BKB record. However, Alex is completely new to BKB professionally. And while Alex has got the gloved boxing background, he's not got that experience at the O2. He's not had the lights, the music, and the pressure of a televised bare-knuckle fight, whereas Bash has got all of that already. And if you think of it, Bash has seen the worst of BKB, and he's gone through it, and he's been...
Yeah.
If you say to him, what's the worst that could happen? I could lose a fight. He's done it, and he's fine. He's carried on. He's not affected him. And also, Bash has got the motivation to win. He needs to win this one. So, said that, I think it all depends on how Alex holds up. I'm going to go for this one in Bash. I think go for Bash in this one. I think it's going to be fun, exciting. Go on,
Yeah,
Bash.
no. As I say, I'm very impressed by that one, and it is a fight where, you know, you're coming in with a young lad like Alex Wilson. He's had 5 bare knuckles on the regional circuit, but as you say, he's not been under those bright lights in the O2. You know, Bashir, I think he's 43 now. He might be 44. I'm not even sure, but he's one of the oldest guys on the roster. He knows himself. Does Alex Wilson know himself? This fight literally comes down to mentality. If Alex Wilson can weather that early storm, he can find his shape, then he should be able to pick the punch. He is the better boxer. You know, he should be able to find the shot that finishes the fight. But can Bashir get there first? That's the real question. I'm going to go for Alex. I have a lot of respect for Bashir, and as I say, I absolutely love his fight style. So hopefully we get to see a great affair here. But I'm going to go for, once again, a first round knockout for Alex Wilson. Next up, the heavyweights. Charlie Milner versus Carl Hobley. A really, really exciting fight. It was supposed to be Carl Hobley versus Andrew Ross initially. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, Andrew Ross is out of the fight with I think it's a leg injury. I'm not quite sure. I haven't been able to get a hold of him, but best of luck on your recovery, Andrew. Hope to see you in there soon. But, you know, we've got a really good replacement. Charlie Milner, obviously, fought for British title in his last fight against Daniel Podmore. Didn't get the win there, but did get the win against Eric Olsen in his debut. So riding a bit of momentum. How do you see this going, Paolo?
I think it's a fun fight, well evenly matched. Carl really impressed me when he made his debut. I think it was against Rob Cunningham. He was a last-minute replacement, I think I remember.
Carl was, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought he did really well. He really impressed me. For a big guy, he's really mobile. He's got great movement, and he dealt, importantly, really well with a tall guy, with a taller guy in Rob. Nice overhands, nice fighting low, fighting underneath his man, and then coming back over the top with his counters. So he fought well, he was active, and he did really well against a taller opponent. Charlie has also really impressed me, though. I thought he really improved between the 2 fights that we saw him in. I mean, especially his movement, that really impressed me. If he manages to keep up his movement again, then I think Charlie's going to get it. I've been impressed with Charlie, his improvements. I think it's a points win for Charlie.
You think to stick and move, that's the way to beat a guy like Carl Hobley coming forwards?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that would be the most logical way of doing things. I have a sneaky suspicion, having looked at Charlie Milner's last few fights in professional MMA, he seems to be getting things done nice and early. I genuinely believe that he's going to come out there with something to prove. He got finished in his last fight against Daniel Podmore. I think he's going to stand and bang. I really do. I think it's going to be a nasty, nasty fight. I think coming in against the small ducking man of Carl Hobley, the right uppercut is going to be the key weapon. Can he finish Carl Hobley? Now, I've heard sparring stories, and we all know about sparring stories as they are. Carl Hobley is apparently a very, very hard man to hurt. He's from what I've heard, from what I've actually seen as well. To be fair, I was down there at the Bournemouth BKB weekend, but everyone I've spoken to about Carl Hobley says that he's a very, very hard man to hurt, very hard man to get out there. Can Charlie Milner get Carl Hobley out there? That's the big question for me. I am going for Charlie on this fight. I think, he's got the extra fight, which, definitely plays a part, but more importantly, he's got the professional mixed martial arts experience. Carl has had a few unlicensed fights, and Charlie, the bigger man, in my opinion, maybe slightly more skilled, but definitely the man who has the range and the power. I'm going to say Charlie Milner by third round knockout, right uppercut.
Precise.
Mickey Parker versus Dave Thomas, British cruiserweight title on the line. 5 rounds of cruiserweight bare-knuckle boxing action. It's the rematch. If the first fight's to go off, then it's going to be a great second fight. Dave Thomas seemed to get the better of Mickey in the early stages of the fight. And then there was a weird moment where Mickey Parker looked like he dropped Dave, but then it was equally ruled a push and it was all strange. And then Dave Thomas got pulled over to the side with the cut. So it's really hard to decipher anything from that first fight. Obviously, Dave Thomas coming in low, really elusive, and then Mickey Parker coming forwards, trying to offset the rhythm of his opponent, making it ugly, getting in close, holding and hitting. I just don't know who to go for in this fight. I'm swaying both sides because Dave, obviously, in my opinion, looked the more impressive in the first fight, but then Mickey Parker just always finds a way to pull it out the bag. You look at the Daniel Podmore fight. A lot of people don't know he's the only man to have beaten Daniel Podmore in bare-knuckle boxing. It was a fight where he was losing. Suddenly he dropped Daniel Podmore and won the fight. It's just the strangest ways that Mickey Parker is able to pull it out the bag. And he's got so much experience in bare-knuckle boxing. I think I'm going to have to go for Mickey Parker. I don't feel like I can doubt him at this stage. So I'm going to say a unanimous decision victory. I'm going to say it's going to be a really close fight, and then something weird's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, and Mickey Parker's going to pull out the bag. I don't know about you, Paolo, but yeah, you can't doubt Mickey Parker.
I'm going to disagree on this one. I'm going to say the Miracle Man doesn't get the rematch. I think Dave Thomas has got to win it this time. I loved the first fight, no matter how short it was between them. I just thought Dave Thomas was the boxer, and he really surprised me with his movement, the way he controlled levels, his counters, his long shots, and even a bit of rope-a-dope as well. I thought he was really interesting to watch and really, surprisingly, had great movement for a heavyweight. He reminded me a bit of Tyson Fury, especially with the Irish colours as well on his shorts. So, going to be Dave Thomas for me on points.
I'm actually going to change mine from points to third round TKO, not a finish in the terms of a shot, but I think there's a lot of built-up scar tissue. We saw it in the Mason Shaw fight. We did obviously again see it in the Mickey Parker fight. I'm starting to lean towards that's going to be the decider. I think that weird stoppage that I was talking about, I think it's going to be a cut. I think it's going to be a cut by Mickey Parker, an uppercut or something. Something's going to cut him open, and I think that'll be it. And I do think that Dave Thomas will have a good early portion, and then, as I say, Mickey will just come into his own and catch him with something weird, and boom. Mickey Parker. British bantamweight title on the line next. Scott McHugh defending his title against James Lilley. I just want to know, I'm not entirely sure what's happened here. We just pressed record and the lights have failed on us. So yes, that's why I look the way I do. So apologies for that. But yes, James Lilley, Scott McHugh. You want to look at two fights for this one. Adam Grogan versus James Lilley and Scott McHugh versus Nathan Leeson. Looking at the Scott McHugh-Nathan Leeson fight, we see the better boxer. I think that's fair to say, the better boxer in Nathan Leeson getting the better of Scott McHugh in the early 2 rounds, being able to move and pick off the correct shots to find his target. And then as the fight went on, the gas tank started to empty, the work rate started to lower, and Scott McHugh just came alive. He's got a motor on him. He's got power. He's got skill. He's improving so much as a fighter. And that was just a real platform fight and just showed the levels of Scott McHugh. He came alive and won those final 3 rounds. What a fantastic comeback. Now, the question there is, can James Lilley keep up the pace that Nathan Leeson couldn't? Can he withstand the power and the pressure of Scott McHugh? Because there's only so long you can keep that man at bay. We look at the Adam Grogan fight. Adam Grogan, another massive puncher, not the most technical boxer. comes from a mixed martial arts background, but unorthodox and lands with serious intentions. I do think, for whatever reason, James Lilley wasn't himself that night. There's a lot of people questioning whether or not he won that fight. I think it's fair to say that there's enough people speculating on that. If Scott McHugh lands a big shot early, like Adam Grogan did, and makes a little, starts a little bit of hesitancy in James Lilley, can he force the action? Can he get those early rounds? Because I do believe that James Lilley will be there in those later rounds in comparison to Nathan Leeson. So it really comes down to that variable. Now, I usually go for the boxer in this one. I think I'm going to go for the boxer again. I'm pulled. My heart's saying Scott McHugh. My head's saying James Lilley. I'm going to go for my head in this one. I'm going to go for Scott McHugh. James Lilley. There you go. I'm going to go for James Lilley. I'm going to say a split decision. I'm not even going to say unanimous. I think it's going to be so incredibly close that I think it's going to be maybe even a rematch. I think they're going to pull a rematch out of the bag on this one. I really do think that this fight is just going to be super close.
Before I start, I'd just like to note that my electric didn't go off because I've got a job and I pay my bills. So no technical difficulties on my end. This is an exciting fight, a difficult one to predict, and one that we have always been scratching our heads about and changing back and forth our opinions, haven't we? Yeah. I think the onus is on James. Can he control Scott? This fight is about who can fight their fight. Scott's going to be coming forward. It's going to be aggressive, hard hitting, takes a shot very well. He's got a great engine, Scott, and I'm a big fan of his, especially recently. And he's really grown every fight. And most recently, in his most recent fight against Leeson, I think he's a bit written off with, well, he's not a boxer. But then he came out and showed us the levels that he's been learning through. So he surprised everyone. And obviously, after the first 2 rounds, he really easily dominated in the later half. So without making it too similar to the Leeson fight, we don't want to underestimate him. However, I think James Lilley may be able to make this fight his fight by controlling the distance and controlling when he wants to fight. I reckon there'll be a bit of clinching in this fight as Scott comes forward wanting to press the action and James wants to say, no, I don't want to fight now. Get the referee, experienced person, experienced fighter. He can control when it's time to fight, when I don't want to fight. I'm going to go with James on a points decision that a few people will find a bit, I'm not sure of that. I think your comparison with the Grogan fight's a great one. And I think the result might be the same. James on points, but a decision that ruffles a few feathers.
Okay, yeah. As I say, Scott McHugh's a bit like Charlie Milner. Always go against him, it seems, and always seems to prove me wrong. So prove me wrong again, Scott. Prove me wrong again.
I hope he does.
Almir Skrijeli versus Barry Jones, bantamweight world title on the line. We just spoke about it previously in the last fight prediction. This is going to be a good fight. Now, I'm telling you this now. People are going to sleep on Almir Skrijeli. 13-2 Montenegrin professional boxer. I think, well, it's a UBF international title. I think he has. Obviously, there's not too much you can read into that, but it does show, that he's at least favoured in the boxing world. So, there's not much to go off that, but a lot of journeyman turned over. His last fight was against a 5-3 guy. I think it was the first guy he'd beaten with a winning record, but he looks a lot better than a guy that's just knocking over journeyman. I've seen him on the pads. I've seen his fights. He's a classy boxer, cuts the angles well. Hooks are devastating. I think these two are going to go hook for hook. I think it's going to be a small portion of boxing and moving, and then I think it's just going to come into a mad brawl, and then it just, ends the way it should, a knockout either way. But yeah, Almir, I've seen him in training. He's using the old crossface guard, the old classic George Foreman. We saw it with Ricardo Franco against Jimmy Sweeney. Actually, the adjustment that made him fall to Jimmy Sweeney in that, I can't remember which round it was, but it was a 10-7 round. I think it was round 5, round 4. So hopefully he can perfect that. Because, as I say, it's not been so successful so far. But yeah, you're going to break your hands off those elbows. So go with it, Almir. But I'm going to go for Barry. He has the bare-knuckle boxing experience. He's looked unstoppable in BKB so far. And as I say, I think there's going to be a portion of boxing and moving, and I think they're going to come in against the ropes, boom, boom, boom. And I expect Barry Jones will probably catch him with a left hook coming in. Third round TKO or knockout.
I agree with the result. I think Barry Jones is going to get the knockout. I think it's going to come a touch earlier, potentially end of the first, but more likely middle of the second round. I think there's just levels to it. Barry Jones is an absolute wrecking ball. We've seen him. He's put away some really good guys, and he's been so convincing in every win. He looks powerful, composed as well, and all the best boxers. He boxes with his feet as well as his hands. I mean, all the best boxers will tell you your feet are more important than your hands, and I think Barry characterises that. I don't know much about Almain. I know he's difficult to find online because I can't spell his surname, but you know, he's a professional boxer, and he will put up a good fight. He does look great on the pads as well. Obviously, he can't say much about the pads, but no. He looks sharp at least.
Yeah, as I say, he is a good level opponent, and you know, people that will be coming in might be saying, "Who is this guy? Why is he fighting for a world title?" There aren't many people that are going to step up against Barry Jones. This guy's game as hell, and he is a good boxer. He's fighting for a WBC Mediterranean title in his next fight. You know, he has the class to make Barry Jones really have to knuckle down and fight an intelligent fight. So, yeah, looking forward to this one. Our co-main event, it might not be the co-main event on the night. Mason Shaw versus Daniel Lerwell, world middleweight title on the line. I've never been in two minds more in my life. So I'm going to go over to you first, Paolo, while I gather my thoughts.
Yeah, just before we started recording, George was practically breakdancing with stress. He was that worried about back and forth in with this one, Lerwell v Shaw. He's a big fan of both guys, and he just couldn't work out the pros and cons of each. Personally, I'm going to go with Dan Lerwell.
Yeah.
I think he's a heavy hitting, sound guy, lovely guy out the ring, but in the ring, he really does pack a punch, potentially the best pound for pound punch in BKB. Mason Shaw, I think, has really got to be commended for wanting the big fights, especially after coming off Dorian Darch, the last show, which was a really, really tough fight. And he really showed his heart in all of that. So I really commend Mason Shaw in that for wanting the big fights, showing his heart both in and out the ring. I just think Dan is a little too experienced, and I think he's a little too hard hitting. And I'm just hoping Mason still got his confidence after the last fight. If you can just not let that get to him, because he did so well in tough opposition. So really hoping Mason keeps confident. However, I'm going to go with Dan Lerwell. George, I've given you about a minute to decide.
Yeah, no, I wanted to listen to you first, just in case it swayed me either way, and I still don't know. I think it comes down to how does Mason bounce back from that Dorian Darch fight? The damage. So physically, the damage, mentally, you know, being finished by Dorian in the way it was. Just like you were really saying with the James Lilley, Scott McHugh, I think this one comes down more to how Mason Shaw reacts.
Yeah.
So, oh God, it's so hard to predict.
Do you think he could box if he stays on the outside as much as he can, uses his feet? It's doable.
Yeah, I do believe that Mason Shaw is the better boxer. Now, thing is, we haven't seen Daniel Lerwell for a year and a half. He's been out of the ring since BKB 19 when he fought Ricky Nelder. His coach Williams is absolutely unbelievable, and he sets levels. And I hope when I go to Wales, I can train with him, because he really does set levels to the game. I've seen him working with a few BKFC fighters over in America. Actually, he's getting people from all over the place. So I expect an evolution in his game. Obviously, he looked better than ever against Ricky Nelder. He has been open to counters in the past. We've seen that in the Peter Radford fight. We've seen that in the CJ Mills fight. Does Mason Shaw have the power to hurt Daniel Lerwell? I think he does. Do you know what? I'm going to go off the cuff. I'm going to say Mason Shaw. I'm going to go completely against everyone, because I know that no one's going to go for Mason. I know no one's going to go for him. People will think that his last fight defined him. People will think that the Anthony Holmes fight defined him. But there's one thing I know about Mason Shaw, and that is the character, the heart. You will not see a guy with that sort of mentality in BKB. You know, he got up so many times against Dorian Darch. I really, really think he wants to prove himself. He's fallen short on the hurdle so many times. You know, the British title against Anthony Holmes, the British title against Thompson. I think he's going to come out of his shell, and I think this is going to be the fight that defines him. I really do believe that he'll be a world champion by the end of the night. Unanimous decision. The main event. Now, this definitely will be the main event. It has been announced as the main event. Sean George versus Dan Chapman. Tense. Flyweight world title on the line. Obviously, Dan Chapman won that against John Spencer at BKB Lockdown 2. I don't think I've been excited like this for a fight in a very long time. I think I'd have to go back to probably Edgar Puerta versus Jimmy Sweeney, Tyler Goodjohn versus Sean George. Those were the sort of fights that really, you know, captured the imagination. I think since then there hasn't been a fight of this magnitude. So I'm just so excited to see this fight unfold. But coming in, I was very much in two minds again, as I have been throughout this entire prediction video. It is probably the best matched card I've seen. Like there have been better cards. Don't get me wrong, there have been better cards. But in terms of matchmaking, besides maybe the Chaz Symonds fight, I think every single fight is a 50-50 fight. And I really, really cannot commend Jim and Joe enough for their matchmaking on this one. But I am going for Dan Chapman. We've seen him at his best. We've seen how elusive and how fast and fluid he is, just on a different level, I think, to the vast majority of the roster. And that's no disrespect to anyone. I really do think he's just a class act, Commonwealth gold medalist. We've seen George beaten by the better boxer in the past, James Kennelly, Key. He's been out hustled by Tyler Goodjohn, and he has been also outboxed by Jimmy Sweeney. Now, does Dan Chapman stop Sean George? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it may be similar to the Jimmy Sweeney, maybe a standing stoppage. Obviously, Jimmy was able to drop and hurt him. You know, it's not an immovable object, but he does have a fantastic chin, especially at his natural weight. At 69 kilograms, it's going to be very hard to stop the man. There's a lot of scar tissue on his face, but it doesn't seem to get open. So I'm not really seeing a way that this would be stopped, but I may be proved wrong. Maybe a late stoppage. We might go for that, but I really want to give Sean as much respect as possible, and I'm going to say that he's going to go the distance on this one. Coming in, you know, he is a counter puncher. He wants to catch you on the back foot. When he's against those ropes, he catches you with that short little right hook coming in. That's going to be a problem. You know, someone like Chapman, he likes his man to come onto him. He likes to be the man taking the counter punching. But as we saw in the Smudger Smith fight, Sean isn't going to allow you to have your way. He's going to have it his way, and he dominates fights in terms of the direction of it. And I do think this could be a bit cagey at the start, and then I think it will come into a really nice little exchange. But yeah, I'm going for Chapman, and I think just the speed and elusivity of the man will be the defining factor here. What about you, Paolo?
Really looking forward to this one. And you know, Sean is always going to bring a fight for the full distance. He has got probably the best engine in BKB going. Right. So you know he's there from the opening bout to the closing bout. He has got energy. He is ready to fight. Chapman is probably not as tested in the longer distances. All of his fights have been shorter. I mean, obviously, he seems very fit. He trains very hard. He's a professional. So I don't anticipate that being a problem. However, it will be the first time going 7 rounds with a world-class level person like Sean. I think the styles are very interesting. Sean, and more on the back foot, loves his counter punches, loves his little flurries to trade. The key, if Chapman wants to win this, is to hit and not get hit. Little pot shots, hit, get out. Don't let Sean counter you. Don't stand and trade with Sean. He's made of iron. He trains so hard. There's not an ounce of fat on him. His hand's never been broken. Like you said, his scars, he's not got any scars at all, really.
He's got a few, but they just never get opened, really. I think.
Yeah, he's not very problematic ones.
Yeah, they're old.
If they stand and trade, then it's going to be Sean. But I think what's going to happen is Sean's going to be on the back foot, and I think Chapman's going to look to a little pot shot here and there. I think it's going to be a points win for Chapman because of the racking up the little jabs here and there.
Yeah.
I think Chapman's he's definitely clever and experienced enough to know what sort of fight he needs to go into. I'd love to see Sean go forward a bit more, potentially cut the ring off, try and trap Chapman. Then again, Chapman's a great mover, isn't he?
Yeah.
James Kennelly's a great mover, so maybe that won't be the best thing. It's a difficult one, but it's going to be points for Chapman, I think.
I mean, angles are the key. If he's moving back in straight lines, then you're going to see Sean take the punches, come back with that flurry, the left hook, right hook, left hook, right hook.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he's moving in straight lines, he's going to get caught coming back. But if he's cutting the angles, moving around as he usually does, to be fair, he should be able to catch him in places that he's not been caught before. So, yeah, but you make a good point. Obviously, we've only seen him over, I think it's 2 rounds. I think it's no, sorry, he went 3 rounds with James Kennelly. I am standard corrected. Mm-hmm. So 3 rounds is as far as he's gone. Obviously, he finished Spencer in the second round, even though that was scheduled for 7. So he has had the preparation for 7, but has he gone 7? No, he hasn't. And you can't spar bare-knuckle, so he's never done 7 bare-knuckle rounds regardless. He might have done it with the gloves, but it's a different game. There's a lot of feints in his game, a lot of movement. Does that drain his tank? Does he have to dial that back? We'll see. We'll see. But Sean is as game as they come.
Yeah.
Don't doubt him. I know it seems like we're doubting him going for Dan Chapman, both of us, but, I really wouldn't be surprised if Sean George found a way to win this fight. So, don't doubt this fight is still a really close fight, but I think the class of Dan Chapman will be the decider. And that was our predictions for BKB 21. Obviously coming up 14th of August, back in the O2 Indigo in front of a live crowd. We're really looking forward to this one. It's been a crazy year and a half, I think it is, maybe even 2 years, but we're finally getting back to normality, and hopefully this card brings a bit of pleasure into people's lives. So, Paolo, thank you for joining me.
That's one, mate. Thank you.